All right, this is purely an audible I'm calling. I said 8. We're going to wedge in a 9th statement here, purely because you show up with that hat and think you're all cool. So I'm gonna send this one out here. Marc-Andre Fleury is a member of the Minnesota Wild.
Let me say fizzle. I'm gonna say fizzle. Doesn't sound French enough.
You are wrong. We can just go ahead and say that he's the starting goaltender for the Minnesota Wild. So.
Oh yeah. Starting. I thought you meant backups.
Oh no, yeah, okay. Yeah, my apologies. I'll speak clearer. This new microphone I got apparently needs to be returned. I
just like the hat, man. Leave me alone.
It's another season of The Stack, ladies and gentlemen. The Stack is brought to you by The Realm Games. You got to go check out The Realm Games, friends, because The Realm is going to have a really big part of competitive Flesh and Blood moving down the line. So go check out The Realm Games. They're awesome people. They're Keith and Jacob at The Realm Games are going to have your hookup. So thanks to The Realm Games for bringing you this new season of The Stack. And if we're going to have another season of The Stack, who best to lead us off than Thomas Von Freshness himself, my friend, who's rocking a Minnesota Wild hat. Do you even know what you have on?
Well, here's the deal. I'm a Flyers fan, but it's hard to find a good Flyers hat. And I don't know. I just like this Minnesota Wild hat. And I also like to wear a Minnesota Wild hat when I plan on getting wild, which I plan on doing with you, Flake.
Wow. So the game is The Stack. And we've got a brand new year, brand new cards, fresh feel to the whole entire thing. And again, with a fresh feel, we got a fresh face. For those who don't know how to play The Stack, basically, I'm going to give 8 statements to Thomas, and he's going to tell me whether they resolve, as in, yeah, I can name you one player from the Minnesota Wild, absolutely. Or they fizzle, as in, I didn't even know this is a hockey team. I had no clue. Statement number 1, one Pro Tour event is better than 2.
I'm going to go ahead and say resolve for now. I think as the game grows, moving back to 2 Pro Tours would be a better option. But right now, I think it makes more sense. 1 Pro Tour, Nationals, Worlds. I think it's a more realistic approach to OP, right? Because last year was a lot, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, but I don't think at the current size of the game, it's sustainable to continue to, 2 Pro Tours plus Worlds plus Nats, skirmishes, Pro Quests. Like it is a lot to ask of players. The burnout is real, and I think that's like counterintuitive to what LSS wants. So
the Outsiders Fabled card will be a reprint Marvel.
I'm gonna say fizzle on this one. Now, I saw you post something about maybe an East Strike Marvel or something like that. I don't know. The Command and Conquer one was crazy, right? And there is a lot of discussion about whether Fables are too powerful, right? Whether they are, kind of too playable, and all of a sudden, they're $400, $500. It can lead to some problems, but also maybe revisit the landmarks. I think people like them, although, one was very powerful. The other was not so much, aka Corsham. But I don't think we're going to get another reprint Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, the E-Strike one was just an easy kind of toss out there to just sort of drive a little bit of dialogue. But somebody actually replied to it and said, I think that the reprint Marvel versions may be a supplemental set thing. And I can see that happening. Like if the set structure of the year is, draftable, supplemental, I can see that it's like a gem or a location as the Fabled for the draftable sets. And then the reprint is something useful like an Artivore or an E-Strike or something that, a generic that everybody can kind of use.
I mean, I do want to say in terms of, you look at Uprising, you look at Blood of the Drakai, right? That format that we got, the rainbow foil and the cold foil, obviously that one's not as crazy as something like Eye of Ophidia, but if they kind of repeat that kind of model in Outsiders, I think that could be a real hit
We are in the best meta Flesh and Blood has ever seen. And part of this is based off the fact that, I mean, it's ProQuest season. New cards have come out with Dynasty. This is the first major, like, big season where everybody's sort of brewing out there. And I got to cast the Min-Max Games ProQuest this past weekend. And the top 8 were 8 completely different heroes. Azalea was there. There's all kinds of great new heroes. And if you're looking at all the different ProQuests, I think there was just very few that were kind of clustered together with a very few amount of heroes. I think Battle Hardened Leeds was something like 5 Oldhams, 3 Icelanders, and that can feel a little bit oppressive and very, pointing towards a not diverse meta, but everything else was all over the board. So again, this is the best meta Flesh and Blood has ever seen.
I'm going to go ahead and say Resolve. I think you can look at something like Battle Hardened Leeds and say, the ice heroes are running rampant. And I even believe, I think maybe Cale McCree said that, he thinks that going forward, we're going to see a lot more ice in the rest of this ProQuest season. But it's hard to say. So ProQuest metas are always going to be varied because a lot of players play what they want to play, right? Rather than they want to play what they feel the most comfortable with, what they feel like they can win with. So you're going to see a lot of Azaleas. You're going to see a lot of Levias because, I'm speaking for myself, I'm the most comfortable with Levias, so that's what I'm going to bring. So I do think it is awesome, and this is a great meta. So going forward, it might shore back up to the ice heroes and maybe like Phi, but for the most part, I think anything can really go the distance.
Talishar makes players worse.
Oof. This is a tough one this is very nuanced and a lot of gray area, but I'm going to say, I'm going to be wild, and I'm going to say Resolve. But there is a caveat there. I believe that your in-play mechanics kind of go to the wayside when you're playing Talishar. And one of the reasons I feel that is, at least personally for me, when you're playing Talishar, and I play a lot of it, you look at that chat bar where it's telling you all the interactions and the different triggers and stuff like that. Nobody's reading all that. I guess you could, but it kind of takes away from that in-game experience that you get when you play the table, which is where everything that matters in this game happens. So if, the easy one is tunic triggers, right? Mr. Tunic Trigger, because Talishar does it for you. But there's other things in the game that you need to pay attention to and like different interactions.
Ultimately, I see where you're coming from. I think that it does make play a little bit sloppier to certain degrees because of tunics and this and that. I know for myself, I have been the victim of being lazy. However, I have basically in my most, the past like 6 months or so, one of the things that I have been very attuned to is being very meticulous about doing everything in the proper order and talking it through. And I think that Talishar can make players lazier, but it doesn't. I believe it doesn't make them worse. I think that anytime you're getting practice in, it's always
That's
better.
Fair. Yeah.
All right, here's a fascinating one, and this is off the back of other card games like Magic and such who have really gone to town on this to a degree. We will see an IP crossover in Flesh and Blood. So we're going to find some other intellectual property out there, either as like maybe altered cards, alternate art cards, things like that. You might see something like, I don't know, you might have like Qui-Gon Jinn as Katsu or something like that. Like there's going to be an IP crossover for Flesh and Blood.
I'm going to go ahead and say Fizzle. It doesn't seem to mesh with LSS's mission statement with this game and kind of their whole vibe. You see a lot of stuff that they definitely draw inspiration from, like, Dromai and Phi seem to kind of have Avatar Last Airbender kind of feel to it, I think. Anyway, that's what people tell me. I don't watch it, but that's what I've heard. And so there's a lot of inspiration being drawn from places, but if this happens, it's many, many years down the line. So
there will be a team-based calling in 2023. I am hopeful of this because team-based events are the best.
I'm going to go ahead and say Resolve on this. I think that the team-based events in 2022 were a hit, and I think a lot of people were vocal about that. And with huge releases, especially 2 draftable / limited sets, it's more likely that we're going to get some team events, especially with sealed, right? So whether it's Outsiders or the set in Q3 or 4, it remains to be seen, but I think we got a great shot at that.
Katsu is the least competitive hero in Flesh and Blood. I mean, we know that the power levels on Katsu may be lagging behind the other ninja counterpart in CC. However, part of why I say this is because it is probably the least represented in all the pro quests, being iced out entirely from some of even the major events. Some of the bigger, like 60 plus entries. I think Katsu it's been a topic of discussion for a while, but Katsu is the least competitive hero in Flesh and Blood.
I'm gonna say fizzle on this, and I'm gonna say that because I don't think we have our best ninja minds on Katsu right now. We have it on Fi. I'm gonna go ahead and say Levi is not. I mean, definitely less competitive than Katsu.
Really?
I would say so, at least in CC, right? There's not a lot of Levi players. I think there's still a decent amount of Katsu players out there trying to make things work. Katsu at least got a whole new archetype to work with the cats that they got in Dynasty. And yeah, I'm going to say Azalea is still a lot lower than Katsu. I think Levi maybe and Katsu are probably close, right? Because you can eke out some wins. Azalea can too, but Azalea has so many weaknesses currently. Obviously, that might change with Outsiders, but I'm gonna say Katsu's not the worst.
I like you said there. Oh, he got some cats. Like
some cats. I mean, that's something, right? You don't know what. I mean, Katsu already had the benefit of being able to sit down and folks were gonna decide whether are they gonna turtle me? Are they gonna go aggro? Now turtle, aggro, cats. I mean, it's a big decision to make when sideboarding. So.
Sounds a lot like the whole Captain Planet thing, where like 4 of the 5 of them got such awesome powers, and the dude who got heart, it's like such a useless power. They're like, you know what? We just gave you a monkey too. Like we're gonna close the gap by giving you a monkey sidekick. So it's like Katsu got nothing, but we gave him some cats.
Yeah, some cats. Why not? Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Going 0-2 drop is better than losing your winning in the final round.
I'm going to say fizzle. This is because I'm an optimist. If I am playing to win, I'm pretty happy, even if I lose, right? And I think everybody should have that outlook, right? You don't want to 0-2 drop. I don't 0-2 drop because I usually just play it out. But if you were in the position to get into top 8, that's a lot. I mean, like you can get there again, right? And you can win the next time. So I think the positive outlook is that it is a better thing to do is to lose your winning in, because at least you were in a position to win and get in or whatever.
So you're coming from the school of thought of it is better to have loved and lost than to never have loved again at all. Whereas I'm in the sense of like, dude, I can't miss what I've never felt, So like, it doesn't matter.
Hey, I get the other side of the argument as well, because you 0-2 drop, you go run a draft, a little side event.
That concludes quite the spicy new season of The Stack. Again, brought to you by the Realm Games. Wonderful people out there in Ohio. Tommy, it's so good to have you aboard again, buddy. Again, a fresh season. We got the freshest of buds here. Please, where can people find more of your growing media empire?
You can find me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod. You can find the podcast Fresh and Buds on all audio platforms, as well as YouTube. And YouTube, in this year of 2023, have moved to visual podcasts, which is, something that I was initially very against. But hey, you know what? Eventually, I got to stop yelling at kids to get off my lawn, and I got to get with the time. So you can find my face and my guest's face on the YouTube for Fresh and Buds. And on Wednesday evenings at 9:30 Eastern, I go live with my friend Gary, aka Mr. Viz, as we do our live podcast, which is called the Bud Rush Bellow, where we get a little silly.
I have a very close friend named Gary as well. I think everybody needs a Gary. Everybody go out there and get yourself a Gary. All right, friends. Thank you so much for tuning into The Stack. Thanks again to the Realm Games for supporting us here. Don't forget, friends, you're not losing if you're learning, so keep playing the game. We'll catch you next week on The Stack. The Stack is brought to you by Realm Gaming in Mansfield, Ohio, a wonderful place to get your flesh and blood fix, but not just that, they also specialize in Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. So if that's where you need to be to get your card fix, that's the place you want to go. RealmGamingNetwork.com. Keith and Jacob, who run the place, are developing a wonderful community of fun and inclusivity. They are also the ones who put on that magnificent 10K out in Ohio. So if you want to get a good fix on cards or just play the game, if you're in the Ohio region, you want to go to Realm Gaming. RealmGamingNetwork.com.